Good Sunday afternoon on a Labor Day weekend. I hope you and yours have had a great one thus far and that Monday is the best day yet. I am in Acts chapter 18 in this 8-week challenge to pray, read, and reflect on the book of Acts. So I'm standing in our front yard right now on this Sunday afternoon. And the reason I am is because, hey, Paula, I'm glad to see you. Certainly miss seeing you today and hope everybody's feeling better. I am using my beautiful backdrop because we live on Church Street here in the big city. And we've got Newcastle Methodist Church in one direction, Christian Church in the other direction. And Church Street was named after Newcastle Baptist, and you can just see little slivers of it between the Methodist Church and the rest of town where the Baptist Church moved. Used to be down Church Street here. Well, I'm loving that because I love being surrounded by the church. And right now, chapter 18, picking up right from where I left off this morning at the chapel. Paul is continuing to travel, and now he's traveling to Corinth, which at that time in Bible times, Corinth was one decadent place. It was party hardy central in Greece. So Paul's going straight from Athens, the biggest city in the capital, now to Corinth, which was, oh boy, quite a challenge. But he meets some good folks there and good things happen, and he has an interaction with Jesus himself by voice. So listen up. Verses 1 through 11 says, "After these things, Paul departed from Athens and went to Corinth. And he found a certain Jew named Aquila, born in Pontus, who had recently come from Italy with his wife Priscilla, because Claudius had commanded all the Jews to depart from Rome." Yep, times were rough there for sure. "And he came to them. So because he was of the same trade, he stayed with them and worked, for by occupation they were tent makers. And he reasoned in the synagogue every Sabbath and persuaded both Jews and Greeks. When Silas and Timothy had come from Macedonia, Paul was compelled by the Spirit and testified to the Jews that Jesus is the Christ. But when they opposed him and blasphemed, he shook his garments and said to them, 'Your blood be upon your own hands, on your own heads. I am clean. From now on, I will go to the Gentiles.' And he departed from there and entered the house of a certain man named Justus, one who worshiped God, whose house was next door to the synagogue. Then Crispus, the ruler of the synagogue, believed on the Lord with all his household, and many of the Corinthians, hearing, believed and were baptized. Now the Lord spoke to Paul in the night by a vision. 'Do not be afraid to speak, but speak and do not keep silent, for I am with you, and no one will attack you to hurt you, for I have many people in this city.' And he continued there 1 year and 6 months, teaching the word of God among them." Now, if you're thinking about, hey, Jesus is saying you're safe, nobody's going to attack you, you might think, well, yeah, Paul, he ended up being martyred, of course, and he did. I think Jesus is saying right here, it's not your time yet. You still have work to do. You still have teaching to accomplish. The church needs to grow under your leadership. And we're seeing here that he has some of his dear allies, Aquila and Priscilla, joining him in this fight. Silas and Timothy, lots of good people. And Jesus is saying, don't be afraid, keep at it, even though as he comes into Corinth, there is opposition from the Jews, and they're not having it. And Paul is saying, that's on your heads, guys. It's on your heads. I'm going to go to the Gentiles. And I've said it on these little videos and even from the pulpit, sometimes who we are as church folk that identify as Christians, sometimes we get it even less than folks that are outside the church. And I know that sounds weird, it sounds controversial. Don't stay outside the church. But what I'm saying is, just because we are in a church does not mean that we necessarily are worshiping in the right way or have the answers or even understand. We can get stale, we can get biased, we can get into a rut to the point where we don't even understand. So Lots of lessons to be learned from Paul here in this regard and his work in Corinth. He stayed there a year and a half and was fortified by the words of Jesus. Join us at the Drennan Springs Chapel. We have Wednesday night Bible studies, 6 o'clock. Right now we're going through The Chosen Season 3. And then on Sunday mornings, join us at 11 a.m. for Sunday worship. We have lots of things in between, including our sports and our other get-togethers and events. Hope to see you there. Bye-bye.